weather modification, all the development of the idea of geoengineering to save us from climate change, etc. Again, there's a lot of documentation that you've dug up on this over the years, but just fortuitously, in the last few days, I noticed that John Brennan, the director of the CIA, was giving a speech at the Council on Foreign Relations, of all places, where he himself was talking about geoengineering. So let's just listen to a little bit of that clip, and perhaps we can use this as a way to broach that subject of, would they really do something like this?
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do.
John Brennan talking about altering weather patterns and spraying things in the atmosphere in order to save us from ourselves, apparently. Would they do something like this?
Would they do it? I mean, the evidence shows that, yeah, they would, and they have, and they are. As far as the CIA goes, they appear to be deeply involved in the New Manhattan Project. There are some early documents. In 1965, the Office of the Executive Branch of the federal government under LBJ released a document called Restoring the Quality of Our Environment that states both the theory of man-made global warming and what John Brennan was just talking about, the SRM, solar radiation management spraying of particles, otherwise commonly known as geoengineering. The CIA also released a document which appears to be the fount of this idea that global warming can cause the end of humanity. And ever since then, this has been used as a justification for spraying us, because they're saying, hey, we don't want global warming to happen. The earliest mention of the theory of man-made global warming that I've been able to find is in 1958, titled Weather as a Weapon. This project of weather modification largely came out of the original Manhattan Project. First of all, it is a physics problem. And the people who put together the first atomic bombs were physicists. They developed also a lot of technology that went into this new Manhattan Project.
What is new about the new Manhattan Project aspect of this?
Well, the differences between the original cloud seeding industry, which goes on to this day, and the New Manhattan Project is mostly the fact that that electromagnetic energy is used to disperse the particles that come out of the airplane, and also conventional weather modification is done on a regional basis, and the New Manhattan Project is done on a global basis. There's a certain Air Force base in Alaska, Clear Air Force Base, which is in the interior, I believe, near Fairbanks. And it's relatively close to the HARP facility. If you take a globe and look at where Alaska is, it's almost equidistant from the contiguous 48 states and then to the most industrialized areas of Asia. You've been seeing chemtrails over there in Japan, and then to Europe. It's very strategically located.
All of this talk about geoengineering that has become more and more common in congressional committees, and prominent scientists speaking out about this, David Keith and others, are going around pimping this idea everywhere they go. And yet, there is remarkably little research or even apparently interest in the medical or health effects, or at least potential effects, of stratospheric aerosol injection. And you pointed to a journal article that I hadn't seen from earlier this year, assessing the direct occupational and public health impacts of solar radiation management with stratospheric aerosols. if you were to spray aluminum oxide aerosols or barium titanate or any of these other chemicals on people, it might be a really bad thing, as they end up concluding. Although we don't know because no one's researching it.
Actually, the health impacts and the biological impacts have been studied extensively, but these studies have just not been made public. The biological impacts are what we've seen are grave. You know, this is mass murder. You know, and I make a case for that as far as Alzheimer's goes. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people who have died. These are extra deaths that have just suddenly popped up. You know, and we're supposed to go, go for a run or, donate money to this or that and find a cure when what we really should be looking at is the cause. And so it's just layer upon layer of cover-up.